Now, I know you said not to get too invested in, like, cool new household gadgets, but that's so cool. I like a new household gadget.
Okay, what did you get?
Well, you know how sometimes we have people here trying to sell us the Tories, for example?
Oh yeah.
And sometimes the landlord comes round?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I've got rid of an unwanted guest disposal.
And a what?
An unwanted guest disposal.
Okay.
And also another pet.
What?
Oh, I got this gelatinous cube. You just
Ah.
feed them a Tory or a landlord or, someone selling a timeshare. Just slip them right in there. And it purrs. It's so cute.
It does purr, but it is very slow to digest. I am looking at half of a landlord right now.
Yeah, but, it's just the top half. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnedow, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're marriedy types.
Marriedy types.
Marriedy types.
Types of marriage.
Talk about the media we've consumed in the week and have a bit of a silly catch up.
Tasty media.
We do laughs and voices and media stuff.
Wait, those voices are us?
Well,
I assumed we had guests.
I mean, maybe we have guests. Who knows? Maybe
we don't have guests.
No. What have you played this week?
Well, I played. Well, I think we should talk about what you've played because you have just a mountain of things to talk about.
I'm going to try and rattle through these real quick because I'm real sleepy today. But you played some of these as well.
I did.
I spent a good chunk of this week playing with the PS VR 2.
You do.
Which is the VR headset for the PS5.
Yep. I'm sorry, we don't have eye tracking here. You're not going to look around the room and find that bits of the room are going a bit blurrier where you're not looking.
Yeah. So this is a VR headset. It connects to the PS5 with just a USB-C cable. It's like 15 feet long. It plugs into the front of the console, and it's got two lenses, which together add up to about 4K between your two eyes, and you can sort of move them closer together or further apart. It doesn't have the thing that the old PlayStation VR did, where it has like a camera on top of the TV that's looking at lights on the PSVR.
Mm-hmm. It's gone the Quest style.
Yeah, the headset has a bunch of cameras built into it that track where you're looking in the room and where your controllers are, so you can like do a 360-degree turn and not lose tracking when you're facing away from the TV. The motion controllers on it have like weird sort of rings around them you got to put your hands through to hold, but
which secretly contain IR.
Yeah, a bunch
lights.
of little IR lights that the cameras are seeing to track them. The headset sort of maps the room out to sort of work out where things are, and it's quite a thing looking around like through the cameras.
Yes, it goes to this sort of weird polygon mesh.
Watching a polygonal mesh get sort of drawn around your room where it's like, okay, the ceiling's there, like mapping the contours of the sofa.
Yep.
To work out, like, the where there is space.
Getting confused by a tablecloth.
Yes, getting mildly confused
and then
by
randomly deciding there was a hole in the floor.
Yes, we moved the table and it didn't know what to do after that. It's like, yeah, but there was no space here. You've changed the room layout. I don't know what to do.
Now there's a hole in the floor. I guess.
Yeah, I've been playing a bunch of games with this thing.
Yeah.
Before getting into, like, the specific games, a couple of tech things that are different from the previous PlayStation VR. Higher resolution screen. It's much easier to, for example, read text in this than it was in the original PSVR.
Yep.
There is rumble in the headset, which I quite like, but it's occasionally, like, at first, it's a little, ooh, I'm not used to this.
Yes, res particularly bad for that one.
Yeah, the first couple of times it happens, you're just like, oh, what was that? It's a little caught off guard. The headset does something, the fancy buzzword you'll hear a lot around this headset, foveated rendering.
That's not quite V-ated, it's just foveated.
Foveated. Yeah, so when you're in the headset, the deal here is, let's say I look at something in the top left of my vision. That bit I'm looking at, the headset can do eye tracking, it knows where I'm looking, and it'll make that bit of the screen as high resolution as possible.
Yep.
And anything that's in my periphery that I'm not directly looking at, it'll make less high resolution. so that it can sort of really focus on making the thing you're looking at look as good as possible and keeping the frame rate nice and high. And in practice, I think it works really well. When you're in the headset, did not notice it happening in the slightest.
To be honest, when you were in the headset, I didn't notice it happening either.
It's one of those things, I can notice it in footage, watching back some of the gameplay I captured for AA this week.
Right.
Very specifically, like, there were times where I was like capturing footage going, okay, so I'm looking up at the top left, now I'm looking at the bottom right, and if you're looking out for it, you can go, yeah, I see it happening. In practice, it's a really smart use of, like, horsepower to not, make stuff high res that you're not looking at.
Yeah.
And the other thing, as sort of mentioned, was eye tracking, which I'll get. I might start with the eye tracking game, because the eye tracking tech in this is easily the most exciting bit of tech in this to me.
It's pretty good.
So I'll get to like the first party exciting launch title in a minute, but let's talk about Res Infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Res Infinite is a game about shooting a bunch of projectiles while you are a wireframe person flying through cyberspace.
You're the lawnmower man.
Yeah, you are a low poly person flying through cyberspace trying to, I think, turn off an AI that refuses to be switched off or something.
Shoot spaceships in cyberspace.
Yeah. But one of the control methods for this in PSVR 2, it's not the default, you have to go into settings and find it, is to target which things to shoot by using eye tracking. And it's not possible to play this with just eye tracking. You've got to do a little bit of head movement and one button press.
Yep.
But you can do a remarkable amount of this game with just sitting still, not moving your head, eye tracking.
Yeah. I mean, you told me that was a thing with Res, and I spent most of the first level trying to keep my head as solid still as possible, just flicking my eyes about. And impressively, right up until the boss, pretty much, I didn't have to move my head at all.
Yeah.
Except when I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to peer around and have a bit of a look.
Yeah. You don't have the ability to target your entire field of view perfectly with eye tracking.
Yeah, there are some sort of edge bits where it starts to go down.
I'd say like 80% or so of your width field of view you can eye track within, and there's like maybe 10% on the left and right that is a little too far. But beyond that, you just hold down X to being like, I would like to start targeting things. You flick your eyes over things to target them, and you see the lock-on appear, and then you let go to fire your bullets. And it is pretty magical playing that game that way.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Like, I played through, I think, like, the first 3 worlds on stream today, and I am kind of blown away by how much more control I feel like I have targeting with gaze tracking.
Yeah, because obviously, as humans, we're sort of kind of wired for the thing is moving.
Yeah.
Be aware of it.
As someone that's very bad at making my hands and my fingers and thumbs in particular,
there's definite lag.
Yeah.
I have hand lag.
Yeah, I have hand lag and I have lack of like precision and accuracy with my hands, particularly for like small movements.
Oh yeah.
My eyes are like, yeah, no, that, go.
Yeah.
I would love to see more of this in more video games. I really like this as a tech. I would love to play some like first-person shooters and stuff with like eye tracking. Just like, there you go, shoot. Yeah, it's the thing of the launch lineup that felt the most like this is the future. I am excited. Other games to try and rattle through nice and quickly. What the Bat? This is...
Bat hands.
Yeah, this is from the people that made What the Golf, which is a silly game about doing a bunch of game mechanics kind of loosely themed around golf. Here, you're a little girl with bats for hands.
Yeah.
Solve problems while having bats for hands.
While an elephant watches you.
Yeah, an elephant who may or may not be your imaginary friend, ? He appears in the mirror, but not... there are scenes where he appears in the mirror, but not when you look behind you to where he actually is, so I don't know if he's real or not. But... yeah, solve a bunch of everyday problems with bats for hands. Squeeze some toothpaste onto your bat and use it to brush your teeth. Try and pick up a piece of toast and put it in the toaster.
Fling meat at a dog.
Do graffiti on the wall of a building.
Paint a moustache and glasses on the Mona Lisa.
Do art heist crimes.
Yes. Stop naughty ducks from taking pictures. And taking pictures.
Serve hot chocolate to cats at a little cafe. All with bats for hands that make it quite difficult to do these things.
I don't know, I think you've done very well. You even managed to put bread in a toaster.
I just about managed to put bread in a toaster.
Yeah.
It is very silly. It's kind of wholesome. It is a silly little collection of nonsense to do. And I think that the theming works very well. Someone, when I was streaming it today, someone mentioned it reminded them of Octodad, and I think there's something to that of person...
Here are deliberately difficult controls.
Yeah, here are deliberately difficult controls. Go about everyday life, but everyone's very, like, you're a very endearing person getting by.
Yeah.
I like that game a lot. The big launch title is Horizon Call of the Mountain.
Mhm.
It's set in the world of Horizon Zero Dawn. You do a bunch of climbing. You have a bow and arrow to shoot at robots with. Explore. Do a lot of climbing. There's a lot of climbing in there. There's a lot of climbing in this game.
There is a lot of climbing.
Oh, you don't even know. There's so much climbing in this game.
I mean, I played for like 5-10 minutes and
Yeah.
I spent
most of
that climbing.
Yeah, there's a lot of climbing.
And also breaking stuff.
It's a very visually impressive game. It's a beautiful world to exist within. Having played I'm gonna say I'm 3 hours into the story mode, and I think that it is a gorgeous game, and a lot of its mechanics work really well. I really would be okay if this game was shorter and had less climbing.
Yes.
If this game had less climbing and more combat and was shorter, I think it would be a must play for the hardware. As it is, I think that it is the game to play if you want a technical showpiece of what games in this can look like. It is a game to go into. Don't expect this to be first and foremost a Horizon. It is a climbing game with some occasional combat.
I quite like the shooting. I would love just a shooting thing with that, with the bow and arrow.
I'd love a shooting gallery mode. Give me an arena you drop me in, and they just keep pulling up a gate and letting more creatures in for me to fight.
Horde mode.
Yeah, I'd totally play an arena-based horde mode of just cool bow and arrow combat.
Yeah, it was great. Enjoyed that aspect of it. It's very pretty, especially that title screen. It's nice to just look around on. It's a beautiful looking world. It's beautifully saturated colours and it's lush to look around. But I had a couple of problems. First one, I attempted the turning on the analog stick rather than using the flick steer.
You turned off the flick to turn?
Yes, because I find it really jarring.
That's fair. I can't speak for anyone else. I tend to find turning angular increments a lot less prone to causing motion sickness than smooth turning.
Yeah.
Despite the you get used to the jarringness, but
yeah, I mean, I guess, but I just wanted to see what it was like, because I think most of the games I've tried so far have been you can turn your head, but if you want to turn to move, you have to do flick turning. And I was like, I want to give that a try, because you'd also talked about the fact that this has walking on the analog stick, so I was like, well, let's try the whole thing. I like the whole thing where it gives you sort of tunnel vision, to try and lessen the motion sickness.
Yeah.
The main thing I had a problem with was the fact that the turning is so slow, and I guess again that is a thing to stop you getting motion sick.
Yeah.
But when you're climbing around something, there's a bit quite early on where you're climbing up the side of a house, and then you have to climb around the back of the house, and that's 2 90-degree turns, and you end up with your hands sort of in front of you, your head clipped most of the way into a wall, and it's if you want to actually reorient yourself twice in the space of less than a minute to get around that thing, especially if you're climbing quickly, which you can do very easily.
Yeah.
It just seems to take forever to try and turn.
Yeah.
It's oh god.
And again, this is something that if you use the angular the angular mode, it's maybe 3 or 4 quick flicks and you've done a 90-degree turn. It's
possibly even less than that.
Yeah, it definitely I would recommend going with that mode, but it was interesting seeing the differences. I didn't realize how slow that was going to be until I watched you playing it, but It is definitely a game that requires two-handed play.
Yes.
For
I
things
tried to
like-
carry a stick with me for a while.
Yeah.
I was not allowed to carry that stick with me
Yeah.
because I reached a point where it's like, I need both hands to climb across this thing.
Indeed. Yeah, that's that. Townsman VR. I booted that game up and couldn't work out how to get the opening menu
You
to
flew over
appear.
the menu a few times,
Yeah, it
which,
kept
and then just couldn't seem to get
appearing
to
and
it.
going, and I couldn't work out what
I
was
tried
happening.
to point you towards it, and it just wasn't happening.
No, I tried again today and could not work it out. I was so confused how to get into that game.
Maybe I will have a go at some point.
Yeah,
Played a bit of City Skylines, which is
we did.
also a city building.
There's also a city building. I played a bit more of that today. It is surprising how high quality the models are for if you want to like zoom down to city level and just be at person height in city level wandering around the place you've made. It's City Skylines but in VR, and that's not a bad thing. But
Putting
like,
the God back in God
yeah,
games.
do you know City Skylines and have an opinion on it that is either positive or negative? You will probably feel exactly how you expect about that in VR. Thumper?
Yes.
This is a music rhythm game about being a metallic beetle on a Hot Wheels track.
Yes.
Pressing the button to hit things on the track and to like turn corners dramatically.
I'm pretty
and-
sure I've played the original version of this.
Yeah, it was a game like not in VR years ago.
A decade or more ago.
Yeah. I really like this game. It is a dramatic and like tense music rhythm game. It's got more of a sort of ominous, spooky atmosphere than a lot of music rhythm stuff tends to. It plays really nice in VR. That game looks gorgeous in the headset.
Give me eye tracking for that, because my reflexes are shite, and I really struggled, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Even when I was counting the beat.
Yes, I got better with it the more of it I played. I'll say that much for it. Tetris Effect connected. It's you know Tetris Effect. It's Tetris Effect. Play Tetris, but there's cool, pretty lights and music happening.
And multiplayer.
And multiplayer now. It's nice playing that in a good quality headset. Every time little flecks of dust were like floating near me, I kept like trying to blink to because my instinct was like, oh no, don't let the dust get in my eye. I was like, no, it's fine. It's just pretend.
Yeah.
The headset rumble when you go into like slow-mo time to rotate the blocks. It's just a sort of vroom. It's Tetris Effect. It's one of the best VR games out there. I like that game a lot. Continues to be good. Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. I played a fair bit of this today. You played some of this?
Yeah, it made me really sick.
I played it using the teleport around rather than
I
analog stick.
teleported around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I've
played it without the teleport around for about 2 minutes and was like, I feel really sick. I
Yeah.
turned on the teleport and I felt sick, but it took about 5 minutes longer.
Yeah, I mean, maybe part of that is you had the motion sick was going. And I know I'm that way sometimes with VR. Is like I'll like change the controls and be like, nah, the motion sick is still there from the past.
I enjoyed looking at some of the objects close up.
Yeah,
I enjoyed the fact that occasionally you can do things like peer under something and look up behind it. The fact that you can look down the barrel of a gun and see the rifling inside it.
I wish that this Star Wars game was better at explaining its own mechanics in its
Yes,
tutorial.
Same.
There are multiple times where it just doesn't explain how to do a thing.
Yep. I wish I'd played it standing up as well, because we played
Yeah.
it seated.
I was really struggling with it wanted me to start scanning crates near the start.
Yes.
And I was like, it's probably one of the buttons on this thing on my wrist.
It is.
And I was trying to press them and couldn't get them to work, so I was like, okay, I guess it's not that. And was looking on my body and I was like, is it these things on my belt? No, it was that thing on my wrist, just the first few times I tried to press the buttons, it didn't do anything, which was unhelpful.
Yes, I managed to work that bit out myself. The thing I struggled with was quite early on. There's a thing with the
wire?
The wire. I couldn't
Yeah.
work out where to plug it.
Yeah, its tutorial doesn't do it any favours.
No.
But the shooting in it's really good. Like the guns are feel really cool to fire, and they
Felt
look
quite satisfying.
and sound very good.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan in VR games generally of your inventory is physically on your body. this
Yes.
game in particular, it's really hard to set it up right so that you can actually see and reach all the things you need to and interact with them.
Yeah, because I was like, there's one and one of the options in setup is look down at your body and sort of set it in the right position. So I set it in what seemed like the right position for my body.
Yeah, that felt like
But I
you-
still struggled to reach most of the things on my belt,
Yeah.
and part of that was obviously I was sitting down,
Yeah.
and I hadn't realised that things were going to be. I was going to be trying to grab things that were slightly below the couch
But I
cushion.
had the same problem. Because the torso length doesn't match my torso length. So when I
Right.
did seated mode, I couldn't. I put it as high as I could, but I couldn't put it any higher because then I'd see like shoulders reaching my chin, and I was like, no, that's wrong. But even then, in seated mode, the things on my waist, like on my belt, were too low down, and I couldn't reach them because they were inside my legs.
Right,
The torso length of the character was too long for me to play seated comfortably.
right, okay.
I ended up turning off the body entirely, so it was just a floating pair of belts,
Right.
and moving it deliberately forward away from my body somewhat and up somewhat, so I could just reach a floating belt that like didn't touch my body.
Yeah.
And that
the
was
other
just
thing is, it's
easier.
another one of those VR games where you're just punching yourself in the tits if you have them.
Right. I was talking about this while streaming it. It's got the Resident Evil 4 VR thing where it's like, we didn't account for tits.
Nope.
Go get this item that's inside your tit.
Right.
Yeah. That being said, those things aside, there is stuff in there I enjoyed, but like it doesn't make a strong first impression. It takes a while to get showing what it does well. Moths 1 and 2.
Little mouse.
Yeah, little mouse. It's a bunch of little diorama style levels. You're a sort of floating person. There's this tiny little mouse with a sword that finds a magic piece of glass, and now it can see you, the human, watching over the world.
Hi.
And it does American Sign Language, and you can wave it, and it waves back.
Yeah.
And you do little platforming and exploring and combat with a tiny sword. And is an adorable mouse.
Yeah.
Moss and its sequel are absolutely goddamn beautiful video games, and it's nice to be able to play them on a headset that is high resolution enough that I can actually see the tiny little mouse ASL.
Yay.
I can see the tiny little hand movements,
Nice.
rather than just sort of a blur that's kind of like, maybe that's sign language, tough to tell.
Had intention, I can't really see them.
Yeah. Kayak VR Mirage.
Yeah, that looked great.
Yeah.
Didn't have a try on that myself, but
Yeah. It is a kayaking game. You have like 5 environments to kayak in. You can kayak in the day or night.
I had to teach you how to kayak.
Yeah, I've known how to kayak in the past, but also I was like 4 days into VR gaming and my brain wasn't remembering stuff. Yeah, you can kayak in like 5 locations in the day or the night, or occasionally in a storm. Don't do the storm one if you are prone to motion sickness. Having the waves like bounce up and down, like bobbing you up and down, but you don't feel it happening, really disorienting very fast. You can also race against other people. Do kayaking races. I did much better today when I did the kayak race again
Yay.
on stream.
Oh, one thing I wanted to ask you. So, when you were playing, when we were down on Sunday, you were holding the controllers as you would normally hold the controllers.
Yeah.
Is it possible to hold them sideways so it actually feels like you're holding
Yes,
a pole?
I did that
Okay.
today. Today I was holding them sideways more.
Cool.
Yeah. So that is, I think you'd enjoy I think you'd enjoy Kayak VR.
Yeah, I love it, kayaking.
I'll bring the PlayStation back down now I'm done with streaming. But like, yeah, I think you'd have fun with it.
Mhm.
It's a very limited number of like stages, and they're largely just have a swim around looking at the pretty stuff, or race people around the pretty stuff. But if you're okay with that being what it is, penguins.
Penguins.
Yeah.
Weirdly, couldn't see the darkness.
Yeah, the nighttime mode looked great in the headset. You couldn't see a fucking thing that was happening when it was on the TV.
Okay, occasionally I'd see points of light,
Yeah.
and you'd be like, "Yeah, that's the Aurora Borealis," and I'd be like, "Aurora Borealis."
I don't know whether it was something to do with like HDR being in the headset but not displaying on the TV right or something,
Maybe.
but yes, it was very strange how nothing you could see.
Yeah.
Jurassic World Aftermath Collection. Great art style. I did have to tweet the developers about a potential photosensitivity issue in the opening
You were getting
screen.
some flashing on that.
Getting some rapid on and off white on black flashing in one eye during the
Which
opening
wasn't
load.
showing on the screen.
No. It's got an interesting cel-shaded art style.
Right.
Both times I've tried to play it, it has made me feel motion sick real fast, like way faster than any other game on the headset. People were watching me stream the PSVR games. That game made people feel ill watching it. It's the
Wow.
only one I streamed where people were like, yeah, no, I'm getting a migraine watching you play this.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what it is about that game. Something about it just, like, is setting people's motion sickness and, like, symptoms
That's
off.
fascinating.
Yeah, I don't know what that game is doing, but it's doing something that's hurting people's brains.
Huh.
So that's my review of that one. I got 2 more codes for games today. One of them I haven't tried, but I'll mention it by name. It's called Atelier Breaker. It is a game about fighting with swords. I haven't tried it yet.
Sorry, I've just thought about how cool it would be to play Hard to Play Shipbreaker in VR.
Right. Sorry, I got distracted by that for a second. The other one I did play was today. There was finally an update for playing Gran Turismo 7 in VR. The racing game with the very fancy cars. That's a very realistic racing sim. I expected that to be a motion sickness factory, being first person in a car going very fast around corners. Played 3 races back to back. Not a single hint that of motion sickness.
Huh. I wonder if that's just something about sitting down and driving a vehicle. Because I've found a few games where it's like you're obviously in something driving.
Yeah.
Have been quite, for the most part, quite alright to do.
Yeah. I don't know how much of it is, this is a setting I am used to being in where the world is moving around me and I can see that happening, but I'm not walking.
Yeah.
And my brain has gotten used to that is how this works. It's an interesting implementation of VR in this one, in that I was trying to work out how to get to the VR mode in it. Because, it booted up like a game that doesn't have a VR mode, where just, it's showing up on a big 2D screen in front of me. But the way it works is, when you're navigating menus and stuff, it's just a big TV screen in front of you, but then when you start a race, it'll just put you in the car. As someone that doesn't usually like the inside the car view for racing games, I really liked it here. It worked really well.
Nice.
There is something about being able to just flick your eyes to the side and check the wing mirrors and off you go.
Nice.
Yeah, it had a really good sense of speed. It was very satisfying to play, although it was very weird. If you look down at your body too much in it, really, crane your neck down, it does look like the body of the character is a little bit not it looks deflated.
Okay.
It looks like it is an empty person sack a little bit. There's just skin but not much filling. It's a weird one. It clearly wasn't designed for you to spend time looking down at the outfit that you're in.
I mean, maybe I wouldn't know, and it's just the body of a much thinner person.
I mean, it looks like you took the filling out. It's weird.
Okay.
But yeah, Gran Turismo 7 plays great in VR. That is basically all the VR games that I played. By today, which is the day before the headset comes out, I think. I think it comes out tomorrow, but today was when livestream deadline lifted.
Ooh.
That's a bunch of VR.
Yeah.
Did you have any other thoughts having played around with it?
That's alright, I'd like to try some more of it. That Star Wars game really finished me off, but yeah, I was enjoying it up to then.
I played 4.5 hours of VR today and didn't feel motion sick until the very last game, which was Jurassic Park. That was pretty good going.
Mm-hmm.
The only other thing to say about it is, it's 500 quid. It's more expensive than a PlayStation 5 is a headset for the PlayStation 5.
Probably more expensive than the RRP for a PS5.
Yeah.
Who actually got to pay for that?
Yeah, and that is... Because the only thing I'll say is, the original PlayStation VR made a lot of sense because it was very clearly aimed at, budget entry point to VR that would be affordable at a time when most people it was prohibitively expensive to have a PC that was strong enough to run VR.
Yeah.
There weren't options like the Oculus Quest that could be run standalone. It released fairly late into the PS4's life when, like, most people who wanted to own one already had one and had done for a few years, so they could sort of divorce the price of that from the headset.
Mm-hmm.
And at, like, 350 quid, I think. It's like, it was expensive, but it was in that realm of, like, it's still much cheaper than any other competitor for getting into VR. PSVR 2 is much more... It's not the affordable entry point option, because the Quest and the Quest 2 don't require an expensive piece of hardware to make the games run, and the headset's, like, less than the price of this headset. Those are the affordable entry point options, but they also have, like, access to all the games that you might have heard of people playing on VR and gone, yeah, that's the one I want VR for.
Yeah.
This is more expensive, and it does have much nicer features and nicer quality.
It doesn't have Beat Saber.
It's got a lot of weird additions at launch. Like, Beat Saber is one of those things that you look at and go, a lot of people look at Beat Saber and go, that's VR games.
Yeah.
And not having that at launch is a blow. The launch lineup is small enough that I could talk about it all in one kind of quick go here. I did a bunch of little micro reviews in under 8 minutes to review the whole launch lineup on YouTube yesterday. It's definitely not the option for, like, the people who want the top end of the top end VR. You know, those are still the sort of PC, like, $1,000+ options. This feels a very middle of the road point. It feels like this is I want a high quality, like a premium experience that I can rely on the quality of performance of titles, but I don't want to spend $1,000 for the headset itself, plus however much for a high-end PC. I want something in between an Oculus Quest and a Vive Pro.
Yeah.
And this is trying to fill that middle point, and that is what this is. Anyway, what have you played this week?
Me, not a lot. Well, I did briefly have an issue whereby Supremacy Software took over my entire Twitch channel on Thursday, the day we launched Two Hunts the Whale.
Oh, yes, that did indeed happen.
Yes, and Chad was playing Game Dev Tycoon, just to show you how exploiting workers is really done. We played a board game.
Yeah.
We played a party game. We played Spy Fest.
Yes, we did.
Yes, so this is a sort of guess which character you are type game, bit like the Rizzler game, or Incognito if you've ever had a physical copy of that game.
Yeah, so you split into two teams who each have, like, a list of, either a list of fictional people or a bunch of people from real people from history. Yep. And
a list of items.
Yeah.
Key items.
And you're split into teams, and one of you is like, cool, I know which, let's say, historical figure I am. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to clue my team in on who I am, but not the other team.
Yes.
And you have a tool to help your team work it out, but not the other team, which is like, here is an item. You can sort of make references to the item that your team will know, and the other team won't know, but the other team has the advantage of getting to guess who you are first.
Yes.
It is interesting.
It is quite interesting. The talking from, like, a first-person style was an interesting challenge, especially since I only knew some of the characters. Luckily, I got Michelangelo, and I had some pretty good ones for that, because my key item was the cosmetics bag. So yeah, I was like, yeah, mate, I would make creative use of the key item, and I wouldn't have a problem with the bronzer. So, yeah, because Da Vinci was also on the list. So, yeah, it was an interesting party game. As we got further down the board, you have different challenges for how you're going to try and do a thing. Like, I think there's one where you had to describe the key item using the character instead of the character describing the key item, which was a weird spin, and that is all sort of shuffled and dealt out randomly. So there's like a bunch of states that could be in and positions things could be in. Yeah, it was pretty fun, even though the manual for that game is really badly written.
Yes, it's a fairly simple game concept with a manual that makes it sound a lot more fucking complicated than it needs to.
Yeah. Because we were really struggling to get through that manual, and then when we started to play, it was like, oh yeah, I get it, no problem, done.
Yeah, it's one of those games that, like, I feel like the more you play it, the more you get into a rhythm of how to play it.
Yes.
It's like that one Jackbox game where you're trying to very poorly explain like a film or something, and
Yes,
you're having to do
very
like
limited descriptions.
it's about the small woman
Yes.
and descriptions like that. It's got that vibe, but you have to get into the rhythm of how do I talk about this thing without completely giving it away to the other side. It was fun.
All right.
Yeah.
It was a fun icebreaker for a group of 6, where 2 of the people hadn't really met 2 of the other people very many times,
Yeah.
and certainly not outside of a club. I have played a lot of the early access version of Plan B Terraform.
Yeah.
So I talked about this last week a little bit. I talked about the demo that was up for Steam Next Fest,
Yeah.
and the release day happened, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to see what is actually in the game
Yeah.
right now. Because demo, very, very limited.
Yes.
And, it's early access, maybe that's it. Maybe right now it's
Yeah.
just a proof of concept. But I had already seen pictures and video of a bunch of stuff that I hadn't had access to during the demo.
Yeah.
So I was curious about what was actually going to be possible. And it's really interesting from a point of view of, like, what's in there already. So you start your planet, which is made up primarily of hexagons, and you have three sort of lunar landers that have touched down on this planet, and you have to try and build them up into thriving cities.
Yeah.
So you're going to be looking around for various resources, so your iron, aluminium, sulfur, and fluorite primarily are going to be your starting ones. You're going to get to a point where you have managed to release enough greenhouse gases into the environment that you hit minus 19 degrees, at which point water starts to evaporate from the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And although you can't see rain is happening. The oceans start to fill, and you have risks of things like, oh, okay, now there is just water flowing straight through this city.
Oops.
Yup. Apparently they are planning to change the spawning so that the cities won't spawn into oceans. But basically what happens at the moment is you might end up with, like, a river running through it. And that river will basically split the city in half.
Okay.
People will move further in onto land,
Yeah.
and that might end up that the whole city is split, or it might end up that the whole city is sort of nuzzled around the edge of an ocean, and then everything else would just sort of become abandoned, and slowly live under the ocean. But yeah, you're trying to supply the city. Like, initially they'll just be like, we need concrete for buildings. Can you get us some concrete? So you mine the sulfur, and you process it in a factory, and you send the concrete across to them, and they'll be like, cool, okay, we're all good now for a little while. Thanks for all the concrete. Keep sending it. And eventually they will hit a point where the population has boomed, and they need more stuff.
Yeah.
So they might be like, hey, we need oxygen. We'd love some oxygen. Oxygen's great, don't you think? So you build some atmospheric extractors, you suck the oxygen out, and you're like, okay, cool, good supply of oxygen for the city. And they're like, that was great, thanks very much, that's awesome. Could we maybe get, sorry to ask about this, could we maybe get some reinforced concrete now, instead of the regular concrete?
Cool. Is regular concrete not good enough for you now?
No, we're starting to build bigger structures, so we're going to need some reinforced concrete, so if you could just whack some steel bars in there, that'd be great. So you start building reinforced concrete, sending them that. They get bigger and bigger and bigger, and eventually they want things like composite polymer bars, which is like metal and it's like some kind of special steel and polymer wrapped in polymer that they're going to build all their buildings out of. eventually you'll get to a point as well where they're starting to produce waste. It's like, hey, you've pumped all this stuff into the city, some of it's coming back out.
Oh no.
So, you're going to have, initially you're just going to have metal waste.
Yeah.
They're recycling their cans, they're good. So you take the metal waste away to a recycling plant, and you can split that out into aluminium and steel.
Yeah.
They're like, cool, okay, we can use those, start to recycle those back into the whole system. Excellent, no more problems. Then you're starting to get organic waste. So the organic waste can be turned into compost if you add nitrogen to it, which means you've got to go and find a way to get nitrogen. But more compost, more nitrogen, use the compost and water wherever you can find water from. Some of it comes out of the nitrogen extractors as like a byproduct. You can ship that down there as well. Or you might need to just, once there's enough water on the planet, just start building water pumps, pump it out of the ground, send it over. It's a fascinating little game with just so much going on.
Yeah, it sounds like a satisfying little loop.
Well, I played it for like 10 hours yesterday solidly. I was like, first day of my holiday, I'm just going to have an actual day off.
Was this what you were playing the other... Yeah, you were playing this the other night when, like, I did Dice Funk and I came down at 2 a.m. after Dice Funk and you were like, yeah, I'm still playing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have played quite a lot of this game.
Yeah.
Yeah, really enjoying it so far. There is already a huge amount there. I have got to the end of what exists at the moment, but that did take days of playing a lot, learning from how the planet changes over time, and then I think like on my third or fourth generated planet, I just was like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. I'm not going to worry too much about things sinking. I'm just going to keep playing whatever happens, and got through to, I think I had ended up with a population of like 2.5 million.
It sounds like there's enough in this early access build that like you've gotten a good amount of it out. You're like not going to be disappointed that you paid for it.
Oh yeah, for less than a tenner that I've paid for it, I really do feel like I've had a good amount out of it. I am excited for whatever happens next, but already I think it's a really great game, and I'm happy to keep playing it as it is.
Yay!
And that's really cool. There are mods for it. There's a thriving modding community that have been through there, or been with it through beta.
Nice.
And they've added some like quite cool things, some cheaty stuff, some just quality of life stuff, some just fun things that are nice to do, like renaming the cities. Because the cities just come up with new name a city on Earth.
Yeah.
It's like New Los Angeles, cool, okay. New Detroit.
Yeah, but I want to name my place. I made it.
And yeah, I had a lot of fun with it. There is a bunch of cool stuff, and they seem to be very active on the Steam forums. They've got a Trello board with what they're currently working on, what's planned, what's already been fixed.
I saw you had a Trello board open earlier today. I was like, what are you working on that needs a Trello board today?
Oh, not me. No, I'm just watching what's being done and what people have thought about. Mainly because I'd played 10 hours of it yesterday, and I was like, I have some things I should probably feed back on.
Yeah.
And I was like, rather than potentially doubling up on lots of things, I'll just check the Trello board and see what is already happening, and maybe upvote something if it's something I think is good. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it so far, and that's a cracking bit of game for what's already on there.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you played anything else?
I've played a couple of other things.
Yeah?
I did my weekly thing where I played my new Playdate games. So this week's Playdate games are Snack, SNAK,
You are a snack.
Sasquatches.
Oh.
So Snack, with however many A's you want to put in it for difficulty, is kind of like the game Snake that you'd have on a phone, where you are a snake, you're trying not to crash into the walls or eat your own tail.
Yeah.
And you got to eat your little circular things you're trying to eat.
Make 90-degree turns.
Except in this one, the circular things you're trying to eat are apples that have mouths and are moving.
Ooh.
So rather than staying in one spot, they are sort of going in whatever direction they're facing, doing little bites.
Nom, nom, nom.
And so you not only have to sort of preempt the speed they're moving and, like, eat them where they're going to be, rather than, like, oh no, I'm aiming for that spot and they've just moved to the one more to the left and I missed them. But
Leave the target.
If you sort of like, let's say one's going from the right to the left and I missed it slightly, and my body's to its left and it sort of bites along, it might bite onto me, at which point I've now got an apple attached to me that's sort of causing me harm. And yeah, it's Snake with just like a very minimal difference, which is the target's move. And
what happens if you get too many apples? Do you just die, or is there some...
It seems like... I think it's a case of... They sort of latch on in position of where they bit you, and I think if another apple gets you in the same spot, you're dead.
Right.
So I think it's like that is a weakened spot.
Okay.
Is the vibe I'm getting from it. But yeah, it's a fun... It's another one of the ones on Playdate that's like, it's a game you know well, but with a fun little tweak we put on it. Doesn't do much that uses the crank or anything, but it's a fun little game. It could be on other things, but it's on this. Sasquatches is the one that is a bit more of a unique thing that uses some of the hardware equipment. It is a top-down, grid-based strategy game about being a trio of, like, essentially YouTube cryptid hunter influencers.
Right.
Going out to get photos and video footage and probably selfies with Sasquatches out in the woods.
Sure.
So you've got a party of 3 characters that all have sort of unique skills and abilities. You've got the big strong muscle who can do things like draw aggro to sort of draw the Sasquatches towards them, can temporarily daze them for a turn so they don't move, so they stay in position. But doing so is worth less points when you get a photo. You get more points for a photo of an undazed or unstunned Sasquatch. This character can sort of... if you manage to find another campsite somewhere in the map, and like the map's all sort of shrouded in darkness until you explore it, he can sort of rebuild it in a single turn rather than multiple turns. You've got the photographer, who is able to track Sasquatches, and sort of like if you can see one sort of in the darkness in your peripheral, can sort of keep an eye on where it is if it like ducks into the shrouded part of the map, and can take photos, and is like the main way you point score is by getting her to take photos that have the Sasquatch in focus and hopefully some members of like the crew, the YouTube crew. So that you can be like, it's our TV host, for example. It's our host, for example, and the Sasquatch together. That's a cool photo. And then lastly, you've got the host, who can like turn on their phone light to like spread some light around the surrounding area. Can get selfies of his goofy face doing like a really dumb grin with the Sasquatch in the background. I like some of the mechanics it's got are really well thought through. If you are able to take a photo either with the selfie or the camera before you've moved in a turn, like if it's the first thing you do in a turn, the photo comes out clear. But if you move and then take a photo, the photo will be blurry because you've like, you were running to try and get the shot. So part of the balancing act is like trying to set yourself up in a position where you can get the shot on the next turn from safety, ideally. There will often be multiple Sasquatches, different named Sasquatches with different little personalities you can see in their face. And you've got to get photos of all of them to finish the level. Different environments to go to. And the crank is used for things like, in a first-person view, turning left and right with the camera to try and like find the shot you're trying to take. It's a neat, silly little game. It's a creative use of like the top-down strategy genre. And I really dug it. It's a fun little game. It's got some plot and some really silly little characters that I kind of love.
Yeah.
So that's this week's Playdate games. Have you played anything else this week?
No, that was me.
I think that's all the games. I don't know how long we took there.
Some time.
Yeah. Well then, time for this.
Do you have ADHD?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself hyper-focusing on things that you're not really supposed to be doing and not actually getting on with the work you do want to do?
Yeah.
Worry no more. Try the internal task scheduler.
What's that?
No more hyper-focusing through the planned events. You can change tasks at a scheduled time. Hell, there'll even be a 5-minute pre-warning that you can set so that you know to save and close your work before you're going to be switched onto something else.
Yay!
Internal task scheduler. Never lose your whole day again.
I hit snooze on it.
Hi there. I'll have a coffee, hot. Make sure it's hot.
Yep. That's how we tend to serve it.
Right. Okay. And yeah. And I want one of those biscotti.
Yep. We can
Yeah.
do that.
Cool. And I think yeah. I want whipped cream.
Yep. No problem.
Just a bag with some whipped cream.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, can do. That comes to $12.83.
And here's your. Oh my.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Is everything okay?
I've noticed that you have your pronouns on your badge there. They make you do that.
No.
This woke company make you do that?
No. No one forced me to. I just do.
Oh, so you did this? Okay, I want to speak to the manager.
Well, I am the manager on shift today. Do you have a problem?
It's disgusting. Strike me down if I am wrong.
Yep, they work fast.
So, what have you put in your eyes?
Not a lot this week. It's
No,
a
same.
lot of VR in my eyes.
A lot of VR. We played a lot of video games.
Yeah.
And then we went out on the weekend, so we didn't really watch anything.
Yeah, watched a couple of things though. On Sunday night, I think we watched a YouTube mini documentary about 45 minutes long called "My Strange Obsession with Gaming Elevators."
It was really interesting.
Yeah, by Daryl Talks Games on YouTube. It was a really neat little retrospective that sort of categorized gaming elevators into the functions and forms they tend to serve mechanically or tonally in video games, and talking through interesting examples of how they can be used and why.
Yep.
And it was just a real nice... It's one of those things where, like, I love when a person, like, clearly is passionate about a thing that you might not have thought about in as much detail as they have.
Thank you for info dumping.
Yeah, thank you for, like, going, I'm just going to sit down and work out how to explain to you my love of this thing.
Yeah.
It was just like a good little passion video. So we watched that. I also watched a thing today called 15 Years of My Immortal Conspiracies
Oh my.
by Strange Eons on YouTube. This is a video about, as the video title suggests, 15 years of conspiracies around the creators and creation of the infamous fanfiction My Immortal. The many times over history that people have claimed to be the creators of it, or various back and forths of claims around it.
Have we found anyone who seems to be most likely? Do we have like a list of candidates?
There have been many candidates back and forth, and it's unclear exactly what the situation is now. The most recent controversy or conspiracy I didn't know about was one of the old accounts that seemed to be from the original creator of My Immortal started being active again.
Right.
And leaving clues that ended up leading to a Tumblr that seemed like a lot of people were like, this is the creator of My Immortal. We found them, they're back. And a month later, they announced a book. They'd got a book publishing deal. The concept of this book was, I'm the person who wrote My Immortal, and I wrote My Immortal to help me find my missing brother who I got separated from at a young age. Claiming that they wanted to make this fanfiction deliberately bad to the point it would become famous so that people would know about it, so that they would have a platform with which to find their missing brother.
That doesn't sound like it
No.
would work.
So, right. It doesn't sound like a real thing. And then it all starts spiraling, because the brother gets found, and the brother's like, yeah, so a bunch of what she said in, like, the pitch for this book is just lies. I have been trying to reach out to her for years, and she keeps ignoring me, and now she's pretending she made my Immortal to come to find me. She could have found me. I've been reaching out to her and she doesn't want to engage until now she can be like, here's the story of why I wrote my Immortal. So like that was a whole thing.
Uh-huh.
Like the dramas around this book. Yeah. It kind of went into the history of have you ever seen that old YouTube video that's like they look like two like teenage emos on like a very low quality webcam, like I'm Raven, I'm Tara, and they're like having seen them, I'm like, oh, I've seen this video before.
No one I know.
So, coincidentally, the names of the two characters in these videos were the names of the two people in my Immortal.
Right.
And people for years were like, those two must be the creators of my Immortal. And they were like, no, we created this as we were like 19 and 20, we just like made ourselves look young in the video. We did not know those were the names of the characters from my Immortal. It was a weird coincidence that people lined up later and assumed we were the writers.
We just picked the edgiest emo names we could think
They
of.
tried to come up with edgy emo name that someone edgy would come up with, and Tara, just regular person name. They thought it was a funny juxtaposition,
Mm-hmm.
much like my Immortals rated clearly did. It was an interesting watch. What about you? You watched anything this week?
Not a huge amount. We did watch the first episode of the new season of Picard.
We did.
No spoilers. Enjoyed it. That's it.
Yeah.
Really.
I mean, look, it is a first episode that was a lot of setup and concept, and I'm curious where it's going.
Yep. We've got some more of the cast of Next Gen. They're back.
I've
Ooh.
not seen enough to really have an opinion other than that sure is the characters.
That sure is some of the characters.
There sure is some of the characters. I'm sure they'll get up to stuff.
I'm not sure what the hell is going to happen this season, but stuff, I would imagine. If I had to hazard a guess.
If I had to hazard a guess, probably stuff.
Probably stuff. We'll find out
Yeah.
in the coming weeks, and we'll keep you posted. Yeah. Right now, don't want to spoil it, but yeah, it's set up. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
It's good. Curious about some ship design stuff. And I look forward to the final season of Picard. Because enjoyed the previous two. Even though I barely remember what happened in either of them. But maybe that's just the ADHD. ADHD. What about you? Watched anything else?
No, that's it really for me.
Yeah.
That's about it.
I watched a 45-minute Izzy video about the weirdness of The Sims 1.
Okay.
Including the gerbil fever.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know about the gerbil sickness?
It sounds familiar.
If you don't clean the gerbil cage and your sim gets bit, they can get sick with this gerbil disease and die.
Oh no.
Also the sad clown disease, where if you get too sad, the sad clown, and you've got a clown picture in your house, the sad clown turns up and basically haunts you.
Oh no.
And you can either call clown catchers who will get rid of the clown and the painting, or you can sell the painting.
Sad clown.
Sad clown.
Oh,
and also how that ties into The Sims 3, where the sad clown is dead.
Oh no.
But also The Sims 3 is set before The Sims 1.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time playing The Sims 1.
Yeah.
Not properly, you know, just spamming the cheats and building a cool doll's house.
Fucking around.
And I had the, what was it, the Double Deluxe, I think it was? It had, like, Living Large and House Party expansions.
Yeah.
And that came, I spent a lot of time just building raves. This is my little rave house. Cool.
Yeah.
I also had a program I picked up from HMV, the Sims Job Creator, where you could just custom design a job.
That's cool.
Yeah. It's like, I want to make a new job. Cool. My sim is a YouTuber. or whatever. But yeah, it was
very forward thinking of you to create that as a job back in the day.
Well, I mean, this probably would have been like 2005, 6?
Yeah.
Even later than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't playing it when it first came out.
Yeah.
Gosh, it was very expensive. But I did manage to, like, get a copy for £1 at one point.
Ooh.
But yeah, which I think I still have. I have a very scratched up Sims 1 CD that just about works. Every now and again, I get the desire to listen to, I think it's Disco 2, which is the one that just goes oogie oogie oo.
Oogie oogie oo.
Oogie oogie oo, I go oogie oogie oo. Yeah, there were some proper bops in The Sims.
Yeah.
What can I say? Have you watched anything else?
Nah, that's it for me, I think.
Well then.
Time for this.
Look, our new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you want to keep playing video games but have work to do?
Yeah, that is a permanent state of being.
Do you want to be productive but need dopamine that you receive from like gaming? That little
yeah,
hit?
I need the like score go up, point go up, number go up, little flashy lights.
Try AR HUD.
Tell me more.
Our special AR glasses will put an abstract HUD over your view in the real world.
Ooh.
It'll help you feel like the gaming hasn't stopped.
Oh, there's a stamina bar up there, and I got points.
Exactly.
Inventory.
Can you get a high score on your taxes?
Oh! Look, the number's going up while I'm writing. Look
That's
at that.
right. Yeah, don't forget those are your allowable expenses right there.
Oh, that's like
They're worth bonuses.
Oh, that's worth bonus points. Oh, hell yeah.
So that's arhud.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS249, and you'll realise just how close we are to episode 250. But also, you'll get a discount on your AR HUD.
Well, that's good info that I've learned.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi. So, we're still trying to buy that big company.
Right?
Yeah, and they still won't let us buy the big company.
Oh, what?
Those regulators are dragging their feet going, oh, you're going to be a monopoly. Oh, you're going to own too much of the industry.
Oh, come on.
Right? Like, look, I've been trying to explain to the people in legal, like, you know, how they should be fixing this, because it seems so easy, right? It's like
gelatinous cube.
Well, I mean, look, we're not supposed to reveal that we have a gelatinous cube. That's showing our hand.
Right.
You know, I keep going to them and going, how hard is it to tell them, come on, let us buy them. We really, really want to, and it's mean that you keep saying no.
Right, it's so mean.
Yeah, what is that not enough to tell them that it's mean?
Right, don't they not understand that companies, big companies, corporations especially, are people?
Yeah.
And that it hurts our fifis if we're not allowed to become a monopoly.
No one prior to this attempted acquisition, no one has ever told me no, and I don't like no. That means I don't get what I want, and that's a bad word.
Right.
It's a mean word. It's a naughty word.
People don't say no to me.
Yeah, no, it's for me to say.
Right. Yeah.
I want it.
You should, and you should have it. I'd let you have it.
But like, look, I keep telling the folks in legal, but they keep insisting it is not a smart legal strategy to just submit a piece of paper that says, but I really, really wanna.
But you really want it, and I really want it.
Yeah, okay. We'll go back.
Really want it.
We'll go back down to legal and suggest we really wanna. Maybe that.
Right. Yeah. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the wording.
Yeah. Maybe I was too self-centered. We'll get legal to tell them we really, really want to buy them.
You are a fucking genius.
I know.
So, have you listened to Out?
Really not.
No.
Nah.
I mean, we did listen to like 6 hours of trance.
Yeah.
But since neither of us were the ones in control of the music, don't know what any of it was.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks where it's like, I can tell you a genre I listen to.
Yeah.
Nothing specific.
No. We hung out in a rave cave, listened to some cool music, and had some nice chats, and ate cake.
Yeah, we were down in a little base. Oh, there's still cake in the fridge.
There is still cake in the fridge.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had cake and listened to music. It was great. It was a lovely time.
Yeah, had a lovely time. With some lovely people. Yeah.
And I can't tell you what any of the music was I listened to.
No,
Sorry
I'm afraid
about
not. Yeah, have you listened to anything else?
No.
There's a new Empty Bowl. We listened to that.
Oh, yeah.
We listened to New Empty Bowl. That really, apart from that, not a lot. It's been very listen light.
It's been plug myself into the matrix and stare at Res Infinite.
Well, can we talk about how good the Tetris Effect
The
soundtrack is?
The Tetris Effect soundtrack has always been phenomenal, and it continues to be so. It's goddamn so good.
Yeah, it really is.
Ah.
The Plan B Terraform soundtrack, the fact that I listened to it on for 11 hours, or 11 hours, and still don't mind it,
Yep.
I think that's a pretty good bit of music too.
Thumper's soundtrack is real good. There is not necessarily, like, songs in it, but the way it uses music and gameplay in conjunction with each other, and the gameplay builds up a rhythm of a soundtrack, is real neat.
Yeah, it was a worthy successor to Audiosurf in many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, sadly, not a big listen this week,
No.
but we played many games, so hopefully that will make
I
up
played
for it.
so many games. My eyes, my brain, so many games.
Well then.
Time for this.
This is a public information broadcast brought to you on behalf of public information. Information for the public.
Have you been spending this past week, or some recent time, playing virtual reality games?
Are you struggling to cope now that you are back in the real world?
Are you struggling to check whether you're definitely not in virtual reality still?
Well, there's no such thing as a little spinning top to tell if you're outside of the VR. But try these following tips.
Can you put things down on the table and let go of them and they don't fall because there's no table there?
Can you turn in a circle a few times without getting tangled in cable?
That one's not a guarantee. You might be wearing a virtual reality headset with no wires.
Do you feel like you've got a somewhat large pair of glasses on?
If any of these seems to apply, you may be in virtual reality.
In which case, try just pulling the top of your head off and seeing what happens.
Oh no, not the top of your head. The glasses on your... Oh no.
It's probably fine.
It's probably fine.
You've heard of the high-quality metal posters available from that brand. You know that brand. They do the mounting thing so that you can put them on your wall and your metal poster will look amazing. And they've got little signed certificate of authenticity on the back. A metal poster, think about it. You can get all sorts of movie posters and video game posters. You can get all of those things on a metal poster. Well, forget about that. We've got something better. How about a high-quality print of a movie poster on the side of a 40-foot cargo container?
How does it work?
We take a 40-foot cargo container and we put a very high-quality image on the side of it.
Sounds convenient.
That's right, you two can have a 40-foot cargo container on your living room wall with disc freight.
Oh, you got me. You got me.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Brochure Justice Warriors.
Social Justice Warriors.
Yeah.
All right, Larry.
All right, Barry. How you doing?
Oh, it's trying to take a bit of time off, but still managing to get quite a lot of work done. You been up to much?
Oh, I get it. I'm the same. I get it. I've been hanging out with some friends recently.
Oh, nice,
It's been nice having a catch up. But I had a little think about a thing that, comes up every now and then, which is, I had a conversation with one of them about the normalisation of alcohol and, sort of particularly how society has decided, like, alcohol is a very acceptable thing to sort of peer pressure other people around chemically. It's one of those things.
Societally, yeah, it does seem to be the thing. I myself, had a big problem with alcohol in my 20s, and
same.
the way I got through that was just taking about 10 years out to just say I'm not drinking anymore at all. Went completely cold, and the amount of times people seem to get unreasonably angry about why aren't you drinking?
Yeah.
They demand to know every little aspect of it.
Yeah, honestly, very similar situation here. I had to, just for a while, just go nope, and I've got a good relationship with it now. It's fine, but
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of chemicals and substances and whatnot in life that if someone offered you a cigarette and you said, "Oh, I don't smoke," they'd go, "Okay, no worries." They would
Yeah,
take
generally
you at your
speaking,
word on
people
that.
will
Generally,
accept that.
yeah, and generally speaking, I think that a lot of drugs people will would take it face value. Oh,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Despite what was told in school, I did
Yeah.
think a lot more people would be pushing drugs on me, but I'll be honest, it never actually happened.
I mean, honestly, I think that most people, if you say no to the drugs they're offering you, they'll go, "Goody, more drugs for me."
good.
But,
These are very expensive.
yeah, but alcohol is one of those ones that it is everywhere and it
Yeah.
turns up a lot. It's very hard to to avoid being around alcohol, and
Yeah.
it's one of those things that that sort of culture of just one won't hurt.
Yeah.
Or demanding why aren't you drinking?
Yeah,
is weirdly normalised.
I'm sure this is probably more of a UK problem specifically, because Brits do seem to have a very weird relationship with alcohol compared to some of our European cousins. But I totally know what you mean. The number of times people got very angry, especially early days when I didn't want to talk about the fact that I have a problem with alcohol.
Yeah.
It was just I'm not drinking because I don't want to. And people very often would not accept because I don't want to.
Yeah, they take it a little personally.
Yeah, well, why aren't you drinking? Well, go, just have one. Just have one. They'll go between the anger and the bargaining, almost like they're going through the stages of grief for the fact that you won't have a drink because you are an independent person who doesn't want one.
Exactly, and it's again, I recognise that part of it is British specific, and I know that a lot of other countries have, different attitudes towards alcohol, earlier on, and that changes the culture around it. But yeah, Brits are particularly bad at not accepting just a casual no thanks, I don't want to in this case, or generally I don't drink.
Yeah, or
It's
even just no thanks.
Yeah.
So you can see that we've both been in this situation, and as such, even in this hypothetical, we are already trying to justify it to people.
We're not even going just no thanks and nothing further, because
We've been there, we know.
You know that unless you give a bit of a this is a firm no, you're not going to get anywhere, and even then they're probably going to ask questions, and it's I'm not here trying to demonise alcohol entirely as a thing, or anyone that drinks, but I'm also saying, hey, if someone says no to a drink, or tells you they don't want to have a drink, or that they aren't drinking, or don't drink, we really need to fight back and normalise that being okay, and no follow-up questions, just it's okay to just not need to explain why you don't want to have a drink.
Yeah. Would you like a cup of tea instead?
Yeah, exactly.
Or offer an alternative.
Yeah.
Would you like a biscuit?
Yeah.
Something else,
Yeah, sugary drink out of the fridge
if
or
the thing
something.
is that you need to, feed people or cater for them in some way, and that's how you feel best hosting or whatever, then, offer them an alternative without question. You don't have to be like, why is it? You don't have to grill them and, have them explain every part of their life choices for you, just to accept that they don't want to drink.
Yeah, maybe have some nice fancy fizzies in that you could make a little mocktail out of.
Yeah, well, people don't drink fizzy drinks.
Well, yeah,
and I've never seen people go, oh, well, why don't you? Why don't you?
People just go, yeah, there's no worries.
Oh, who don't drink fizzy drinks? Oh, yeah, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I've met people who don't drink hot drinks.
Yeah.
Ugh. Fancy a wink?
Yeah.
Ugh. Good hug, mate. Good hug. Right, I think we're going to have an early night.
Sounds like a plan.
Nice.
So, there's a book available for people to buy at unbound.com/book/whale.
Yeah, it's out now. It's called Who Hunts the Whale. It's a book. We made it. It's out now.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's a book. We made the book.
People seem to like it.
People do seem to like the book.
Yeah. People have described it as readable.
Very readable.
Very
Number
readable.
of people who are like, yeah, because of ADHD, I can't read book much. Got through this in 1 or 2 sessions.
That has honestly been the nicest compliment I've read about the book. Is hey, I have ADHD and I can't. I brain won't let me read, but your book, real readable.
Real readable.
I'm like, hell yeah, we made a readable book.
Yeah, I think that's a good sign. You know, there's a very few authors that I would say that have caused me to be like, I'm doing this, I'm downing this in one. So yeah, feeling pretty positive about that. You could join those people.
You could.
You could join those people at unbound.com/book/whale. Also available at all good bookshops and some of the bad ones.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's available in Amazon US at the moment. Apparently there were some issues where it wasn't, but apparently Barnes & Noble had it in the US. But also unbound.com/book/whale. You can get it from there.
It was arriving pretty quick to people in the US. I saw
Yes.
some people in the US getting it very shortly after it shipped to them.
Yes, very sorry to anyone who is still waiting on extra backer bits.
Yeah.
Then we have been pestering Unbound to get those sorted.
We're sorting and managing the chaos. There was a brief period at the weekend where like some people got 3 times as many books as they were meant to, and that we had some things to sort.
We
We're
did have
getting
some
there.
things to sort. But yeah, we are getting there, and you can go and enjoy that book. And then you can join the hundreds of other people who give it a 5-star review.
Indeed,
If you so desire.
Yeah, enjoy the book and then tell people I enjoyed the book.
Yeah.
That's a good thing you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
What about you? Where else can we find you?
You can find me at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere on the internet. Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, YouTube, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. Anywhere that you can find a Laura K. Buzz, I'll be there. I've done a bunch of coverage on YouTube of the PSVR in various regards. Go check that out on youtube.com/Laura K. Buzz. What about you? Where are you on the internet?
I've got Linktree, because I couldn't get unified branding. It's linktree.ee/Janiac. JANEIAC. You can find t-shirts, music, all sorts of things, board game reviews, gosh knows what else. Most importantly, you can support me at patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. You can join the 28 lovely people who already support me. Maybe push me up to that shining, glimmering hope of 30. I would really like that. A little as $1 makes all the difference. And that's patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. Laura, will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.